Hey, this is AJ. Welcome back to the Handyman process. I got rained out today on a job, so instead of going and repairing a deck, I'm going to walk you through my numbers for May. In this video, I'm going to walk you job by job. What was the job? How did I get the job? What was the source of the customer? Maybe a little bit about how I estimate the job, and then all the numbers. How much did I charge? What were my expenses? And then I'll roll it all the way to the end of the month. How much did I actually end up with in my pocket? So if you want to get that kind of information, stay tuned.
All right, so let's talk about our numbers for May. The chart you see behind me here is just kind of a graphic overview. You'll see the blue bars represent the specific jobs that I did on specific days. And then the red lines is the cumulative total of how much money did I make. A little bit of a teaser in the month of May, total revenue, I made about $10,000. But $10,000 isn't really $10,000, right? Once you take out all your expenses and whatnot. So I'm going to walk you through as quickly as I can, job by job. What was the job? How did I get the job? Maybe a little bit of estimating advice, not too much into the estimating, but then all the numbers associated with it. And I'll kind of walk through. I'll try to lighten it up a little bit by adding some pictures of the job that I was working on, or maybe something in the background. So you'll see some pictures here and there. But the point is I want to show you real life what it's like as a handyman, as a full-time handyman running a business. What kind of numbers am I pulling in? Where am I doing good? Where am I doing bad? What am I doing to try to improve that? So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the numbers. Okay, so now we're going to kind of go one by one, right? And I'm going to orient you to what you're seeing here on my screen. Essentially, I've taken all the data that I have from my different systems. I put it in here to try to make it a little bit easier to explain. So jobs is just how many jobs did I have in this particular month? I had 25 total jobs. What day did I do them? When did I get paid? A little bit about the job description, the source, where did the customer come from? The payment type, was it cash, credit, check, or something else? What did I actually invoice? What was, if any, tip that I received? Uh, what were the fees, payment processing fees? So if it was a credit card payment, I have to take out those fees. How many hours did I have, direct hours associated with that job? And when I say direct hours, the way I'm defining it is my travel time to and from the job plus my time on the job. The way that I do my supply runs, I do go to the store quite a bit for things. So that time isn't necessarily included in here. So there's extra time for that. But I try to consolidate my buys. I'm not the kind of handyman that goes for every job runs to Home Depot. What I do is I schedule all my jobs out. So basically, every time I'm at Lowe's, I'm looking at the next 5 or 6 jobs that I have, and I'm buying all the supplies that I need for those jobs. Maybe at that particular time. If it's a heavy thing like lumber, I might buy it the day before, the morning of. But generally, I'm buying in bulk whenever I'm there. Then finally, if I take what did I invoice plus the tip minus the payment processing fee, what did I actually get paid for that particular job? I don't do necessarily job costing at the specific job level. So what I'll do is at the end of the spreadsheet, I'll kind of say, okay, here's all the money I made. Now let's take out in bulk all the expenses that I had, whether they're the materials, the cost of goods sold for each particular job, or my operating expenses. All right. So with that being said, I'll just go ahead and I'll start walking through some of the jobs. So the first job that I had was actually a pretty big job. I think it was the biggest job for my month. Um, and this job was basically a long list of items. Most of the time, what I'll do is I will go and do virtual estimating, right? So somebody will say, I have a ceiling fan. Okay, send me some pictures, answer a few questions. Here's your estimate. In this particular case, she had such a long list and she's literally 5 minutes from my house that I just went over there and walked through the list. And I'll put, as I'm walking through this, I'll try to put a picture over here to the side of the long list of items. But it was all sorts of different work. It was concrete work, painting, wood repair, you name it, right? All sorts of things. So I estimated all that stuff out. And the way that I estimated this job is I looked at everything she had on the list. I figured out, okay, how much time do I think it's going to take me to do this particular job? I multiply that by 100. Then I figure out the materials. I look at the materials, and then I mark that up by 20%. So that's how I came up with the numbers for this one. This is a repeat customer. I think I've done maybe 3 jobs for her in the past. And this job was actually broken up into 2 days. So I had scheduled a full day plus part of another day just in case it went a little bit longer, which it did. Gave me a little bit of breathing room. In addition, for this one, I also had the supplies delivered, which I don't do very often, but in this case, I had a lot of heavy rocks and mulch and other types of things. That's the good news. The bad news is Lowe's gives me a window like, hey, we'll be there in this like 6 hour window, which really doesn't help me out. I really wish they could have said, hey, we'll be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, drop all your stuff off. But that's another video for another day. Anyway, go through. I invoiced $21.20 for this job. I took out $61 in processing fees from Square, so I made about $2,000 on that particular job. Moving on to the next day, I had a quick door lock. Somebody just had a door lock they wanted replaced. That was pretty straightforward for these types of jobs. Again, this is another 5 minutes from my house. I know I'm in and out fairly quickly, so I give my minimum charge, which is $125. This particular customer was a repeat customer, and she paid by check, so $125 in my pocket, no fees out of that. Moving down to the next one, ceiling fan, light fixture. Uh, this is a Facebook customer. So this is one of those ones where they sent me some pictures. Here's the light fixture. I'm putting up a ceiling fan, and I said, okay, yeah, no problem. What I should have done, and you really can't do this with homeowners, is ask them if there's a fan rated box in that area. So what? Long story short, I go over to the house. I take this. What they had is like some cheesy like light fan fixture, some plastic junk thing from Amazon, and they wanted to put up a traditional ceiling fan. So once I took this thing off, I realized, okay, I don't have a fan rated box in this ceiling. So basically, I told the customer, I said, hey, here's the deal. You don't have this box. I don't do that kind of stuff. I always refer that out to my electrician. Yeah, I could do it. I just don't do it. Right. So I asked her, I said, hey, do you have any other type of old light fixture you want me to put up in this thing? Because she was having issues with this piece of junk from Amazon. So she said, yeah, I think I have something in the garage. So she went out to the garage, she grabbed something, I installed it. And the way that I operate is if I don't solve your problem, I don't really charge. In this particular case, she wanted a ceiling fan put in. I couldn't solve that problem. She didn't really want the other piece of junk put back up. So I just put this other light fixture in, charged her $40. I was in and out of there, and I have an hour. I was in and out of there in about an hour, and I chalk up that I took a loss on this one. I should have been a little bit more specific about some of the question that I had for that, but this is what happens in the handyman business. It goes that way sometimes. Moving on to job 4, another ceiling fan for a repeat customer. I had done a huge job for them the previous month. This was actually on that list, but I had spent so much time there for the other jobs that by the time I got around to the ceiling fan, I was just covered in sweat. I was dirty from working on outside. So scheduled it for another day. Ended up charging $140. I normally charge $150 for this, but since they threw me such a big job, I gave them a discount. They actually ended up giving me $20 on top of that in cash. So I made $160 on that particular job. And I was there a little over 2 hours. This was a little further away. This was about 25 minutes from my house. So, half of that time, or at least, half of that time is just traveling to and from the job. Moving down to job number 5, a French door adjustment. So this customer originally came from Facebook, and they reached out asking me for if I could do drywall work for them. So they showed me a bunch of pictures, and I'm like, you know what? I suck at drywall, but I got my friend Miguel who does great work at drywall. So I handed him off to Miguel. Miguel went over there, did all the drywall work, and while he was there, they asked Miguel, "Hey, can you fix this French door? It's not opening and closing correctly." So he didn't like doing that kind of work, so he referred it back to me. So it's kind of like a boomerang thing with some of these referral jobs. So he sent me a few pictures, and I made the assumption again. I should have asked a little bit more questions, but I made the assumption of, okay, yeah, I probably have to like shim a hinge here or there, shave down the door, and things will work properly. But I got over there, and the doors were like this. It was a total mess. Long story short, I had to end up cutting out taking off all the trim from this French door, cutting out most of the door jamb, and then doing all sorts of stuff to re-level it, replumb it, reshim it, put the trim back up. The piece of trim broke. I had to run to the store to get new trim. So I way underestimated this job. I estimated at 305, and I ended up total time going back and forth doing everything was about 6 hours. So I lost a little bit of money on that job, but Miguel made a lot of money on that job, right? So this is what happens in this kind of work. It kind of ebbs and flows with it. Moving down the line, that same day, I had somebody reach out to me. They found me on Google. They're getting ready to sell their house. They had several areas that they got hit on their inspection checklist for basically big chunks of concrete missing out of their driveway. This is somewhat of a fairly new house, but you could tell it was kind of a rush job. A lot of the rebar was super close to the surface of the concrete, and it just popped, right? So I go over there. What I like to use, the product that I like to use for these types of jobs is kind of a ready mix patch. But when you put that patch compound down, it never matches, right? So what I do is, what I like to do is a combination of things. So I'll put the patch material in there. I'll get it as smooth as possible. I'll brush it out, try to match the texture of the concrete work. Then I'll do one of a few things. I like to carry an extra bag of concrete with me, and I'll sprinkle some of the concrete powder on there and kind of work that in to kind of give it the dirty look. If it's a really dirty driveway, I might actually get some dirt or scrape off um, some stuff from the driveway and kind of put it on there, blend it in a little bit. It's about the best I can do for that particular job. But this job I estimated out around 230. The only real supply I had for that job was the concrete patch mix. I want to say it's like $15-20 for this stuff. And then I spent about 2 hours on the job taking care of that one. Moving down the line, I had another repeat customer that had some door locks that they wanted to replace, some rekeying, and then some weather stripping. Actually, I don't have that time on this one, but I want to say, God, it was like 3 hours. And it was 3 hours. The work went pretty quick, but the homeowner was super nitpicky, right? So I put all this new weather stripping in, and he's getting down on his knees. He's shining flashlights through. He's like, "You can see a small sliver of light here." I was like, "Hey, man, there's nothing I can do," right? I was going back and forth, trying to satisfy this thing. Some of the doors were warped, and you had to look at all these odd angles to see like just a razor's um, thin strip of light coming through these things. Anyway, I took off bottom seals. I did all sorts of stuff, but a repeat customer that gives me a lot of work. So I did it. Just if they ever ask me to do weather stripping again, the price is going up quite a bit. Moving down the line, job number 8 was a cat tree assembly. So I had done some assembly work for this customer who's a repeat customer. The last time I was there, I did about 4 hours worth of work on this particular one. This customer likes to pay in cash, and she likes to pay by the hour, right? So I'm $100 an hour for this particular customer. I was there just about an hour, put this cat tree together, talked a little bit, and I was in and out. Next job was another hard all day job. The customer had found me on Google, and what they had is they had a combination of some wood rot outside and some ceiling fan stuff inside. So the way that I structured this job, it was about 97 degrees that particular day, is I did a lot of the cutting out of the wood rot first and patching that up. I had to come back and paint it, but I wanted to do the majority of the cutting while it was cool in the morning. So I did that, cut all the wood rot out, and then moved inside. They had 4 ceiling fans, which normally I'm pretty quick at ceiling fans, but I want to say 2 or 3 of these were old school, like bolted in ceiling fans, high ceilings. So it took me quite a bit of time to get these fans out. Plus, there was beds in the way. So I ended up spending all in about 10 hours on this job. Again, when you estimate these things out, it's hard to be sure. I thought 942 was a great price. I didn't have a lot of material in this one, a little bit of stuff for the wood rot, but it was a long, long, grueling day. Uh, the homeowner actually ended up giving me a 10% tip, a $94 tip on top of this. So total take home money was about $1,000. So you do the quick math, it was about $100 an hour for a 10-hour day. In retrospect, probably should have charged a little bit more, but hey, I'm happy to do $1,000 day at any time. Moving down to job number 10. So this was a cabinet drawer build and some exterior sealant. This customer actually found me from my first job. So when I was doing that first job, the long list of items, I put up my truck sign on the back of my truck. She reached out. She just happened to be walking her dog around the corner and then reached out. I think the next day I stopped by, I did the estimate for this. And essentially what she had was she had a false drawer in her kitchen. She had like an old sink. Long story short, she got new countertops, shrink size, or the sink size got smaller, which opened up some cabinet room for her. So she was able now to have room behind this false drawer front, and she wanted a drawer put in there. So basically, went over, took a few measurements off of a nearby drawer, went back to my shop, built a new drawer, then came back, took off the false front, put in rails, attached the box, put everything back in. Actually, my measurements were slightly off. I tried to copy the drawer right next to it, but it was a little bit off. So I had to run back to my house, which was about 5 minutes away, modify that a little bit, got that taken care of. Then she had some exterior sealant that I had to put in. So took care of that one. She paid by check. It was 385 and about 3.5 hours of work on that one. Moving down the line to job 11 here. Job 11 was cabinet hardware. I'd done some cabinet hardware for this customer before. I want to say a job of around $300 $400. And at that time, he said, don't worry about the bathrooms. I'll take care of it. And I said, you sure? I'm here. I can knock them out. I said, no. I was like, I'll take care of them. But what happened is the customer had a heart attack and just couldn't move around, couldn't do anything. So he asked me to come back out. I came back out. It was putting in the cabinet hardware was a piece of cake. I was in and out pretty quick, but we sat there quite a bit, chit chatting about different things. So I ended up spending about 2 hours on that particular job. Next one, another repeat customer had some vent covers on the side of the house that had kind of fallen off. So I stopped by Lowe's, picked up a few of those, put them in. I ended up putting two of those vent covers in. I want to say material for that was about $30 in material that I had to pick up, but went ahead and put that in. I was in and out less than an hour. Next job was a Google customer who wanted 1, 2, 3 exterior light bulbs put in. Piece of cake, right? And the front door, everything on the front door was messed up. Everything was loose. It wasn't closing properly. All sorts of issues. So I get over there and we're chit chatting as I'm doing these jobs, and somehow the fact that my wife is Japanese came up, and then she said, "Well, do you like Godzilla?" And I said, I've watched some videos, and this was like the biggest Godzilla fan ever. So as I'm working, we're talking about Godzilla. I'm telling her my wife's in Japan, and she's like starts getting very emotional how much she loves Japan and how much Godzilla means to her. So I told her, I said, hey, if you want, I'll ask my wife's over there. If you want like a souvenir from Japan of Godzilla, I'll ask her. And she almost went to tears. It was pretty interesting. So she was, over the moon with this fact that I was going to give her possibly a Godzilla gift from Japan. So anyway, long story short, I'm there a little bit over an hour. I take care of everything. Charge 125. She gives me a $50 tip, probably because of the Godzilla thing. So that job worked out pretty good. My wife's coming back from Japan next week, so maybe I'll make a video of me giving the Godzilla gift to her. That was pretty cool. All right, moving down the line, I have another job. This is a bunch of small little tasks. This was an elderly senior citizen, a widow, of a long checklist of things. I spend most of my time there actually just talking to her, sitting at the kitchen table, talking to her. If you're a handyman, you're going to do these jobs for a lot of customers, and you might be the only people they interact with for a long time. So I take the time to sit down, to talk to them, to listen, to hear them out. The job was pretty straightforward. It wasn't strenuous at all. I knew that I was going to sit there for a long time, so I charged that. I would normally charge 125 for what I did, but the fact that I knew we were going to sit down at the table and we were going to talk, I essentially charged for my time, right? So I charged $175 for my time. Looking back on it, I spent 2 hours there, so I probably should have charged $200. But sweet old lady, 175 was more than reasonable. And then she ended up giving me a $25 tip on top of that, so things worked out all right. Moving down the line to the next job, job 15, was just a soffit attachment. So person had found me on Facebook. They were a little bit of a ways from me. I want to say 25 minutes or so out in the country away from me. And it was just one small piece of soffit that blew off in the wind. They wanted me to put it back up. I always feel bad for these types of jobs. I had to tell them, hey, it's going to be 125. I know I'm going to be in and out in a few minutes, but that's what it is. So they said, yeah, we're just looking for somebody who shows up. So I showed up. We chit chatted a little bit. I went up there again. The job was done in 5 minutes. Put a couple screws in, put this thing back in. It was a done deal. But I like to add a little bit more value, especially if I'm going to travel out and charge a rate like that. So I always ask people, anything else you want me to take a look at while I'm here? Issues, concerns. So we ended up walking around the property quite a bit. The wife of the homeowner has a couple of disabilities, so a lot of wheelchair ramps and whatnot. They asked me a lot of questions about making repairs to those types of things. So I gave them a couple of ideas, a couple of numbers for that particular job. Okay, before I move on to job 16, let's take a quick break.
Yeah, I hope you're enjoying the videos so far. If you are, please go ahead and hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and please consider subscribing. If you're getting content out of this video and you really want to help me out, you can hit that super thanks button below. I don't get paid by YouTube. I don't make any money from YouTube, and it takes me a lot of time to make these videos. So if you want to show a little bit of appreciation and help me out, feel free to go ahead and hit that button. Now back to the video.
All right, moving back to job 16, cleaning out some gutters. This is a repeat customer. I'm on the schedule now every year to go over and blow off her roof. I only do gutter work and roof work now for single story homes. So I have no fear of getting up on this roof. I could jump off this roof and be fine with it. I no longer do the high stuff. If I'm going to die or be severely injured by falling off the ladder or the roof, it's just not worth it to me anymore. So this was a pretty straightforward one. I was there the job took about 45 minutes. We chit chatted for a while. So total time there and back on the job was 1.3 hours. Charged 125. She gave me a $15 tip. So that was a pretty easy one. Next one, job 17, was just a safety bar. I'd done some work for this individual. Actually, if you've been following me for a while, I don't know if I made a video on this, but I recently made a beach wheelchair for a young disabled boy with cerebral palsy. And it was pretty cool because I was able to get a lot of my friends and family to help contribute to this. The fact that they paid for all my time, for all the material, plus like $500 in addition that I was able to give to this young mother and family to help them out on this trip coming up. Anyway, long story short, she asked me to come back and install a safety bar. Son's trying to become a little bit more independent coming up the stairs. He wanted a safety bar. So went back to my minimum charge, 125, put the safety bar in. You can see the numbers, it works out to 121 after taxes. Next thing down the line is job 18. So this was a Google find. And this was the first time that somebody has found me by Googling cabinet drawer repair. Because I asked her, I said, how exactly did you find me? When you Googled it, what did you Google? She's like, I just Googled cabinet drawer repair, and you were the first non-cabinet shop to pull up. I think she said you were the third result. There was cabinet shop, handyman. So she reached out to me, right? And I'll put some pictures in here. Essentially, she had a brand new kitchen, right? But they used the cheapest materials. They used this cheap particle board cabinets that's like stapled together. They didn't even glue it. They were just stapled together. And over time, the front drawer just popped off. So I basically stopped by, picked up the old drawer, came home, made a template of it, rebuilt the drawer. In reality, that's a quick job. In theory, it's a quick job. In reality, for some reason, I messed up the cuts of the bottom of this drawer like 3 times. I don't know how I did this. I measured twice, but I ended up having to go back and forth to the store for a quarter-inch plywood 3 times. That's why the total amount of time is 3 hours, 3.2 hours to do this job. Normally, I do this stuff pretty quick. I don't know what I was thinking. I was tired that particular day, so I screwed the pooch a little bit on that one. But I like that kind of work, so to me, it's not a big deal. Next job was another cabinet hardware job. So I'd done some advertising on Facebook, and this was a direct result of that advertising. Somebody had reached out. They had I want to say like 30 something pieces of hardware they needed installed. I'll put some pictures up here, kind of what that looked like. But this was a Facebook lead, credit card payment, $315 total, $15 tip. Run out all the math, $320. That's what I made for that particular job. Moving down to job 20, some doorknobs. Um, okay, yeah, this is another repeat customer. The same customer that I had done the vents on the side of the house. She calls me like 3 times a month now. Always tips me. Is 10 minutes up the road here. It's hard to beat. But she had two doorknobs that needed to be replaced, plus a latch that wasn't working, and then she threw one other small hang something on the wall for me job. So I was there 1.5 hours, no material on this one, and after all expenses or after all fees, pulled home about 157 for that job. Next one was fence repairs. This was a little bit of a beast. So just down the street here, maybe 2 minutes from my house, I have a customer that I've been working with for a while. It's a repeat customer who had originally found me on Google. Um, she's trying to sell the house, and I've been doing work at this house on and off for months now. And I guess she got hit on a house inspection for some damage to the fence. And I knew the fence looked a little rotty, but she never asked me to fix it, so I never touched it. So she asked me to go over, take a quick look, and essentially just replace all the rotted out fence boards. So I went over there, just took a quick peek. Essentially, what I did is counted all the fence boards, and I should know better than this. What I didn't do is I didn't peer over and really look at a lot of the structure, and I didn't take a really close look. I just walked into the backyard. It's like, okay, about 40 fence boards. That should have been a red flag for me right off the bat that there's 40 bad fence boards. But I didn't do my due diligence on this one. I think I originally quoted her like, okay, at $300, I'm just going to pop these things off and then go from there. Because the problem was the fence boards were on her side of the property and all the structure was on the other side of the property. So what I should have done is I should have peeked over, still got on my ladder, peeked over, saw the structure on the other side, which, long story short, there was no structure on the other side. So the day comes, right? I pick up 40 fence pickets and pick up a couple of 2x4s just in case. And I get over there and I start popping off fence boards. And as I'm popping off fence boards, like it's just disintegrating in front of me. And I'm like, oh my God, now I can actually walk through the fence to the neighbor's yard, right? I knock on the door. I tell the neighbor, hey, do you mind if I come over here and I'm kind of taking a look at things? And she says, yeah, sure, do what you got to do. So now I realize, wow, this is a lot more than I thought it was going to be, and it's going to take me a lot more time. So I message the homeowner. I say, hey, here's a deal. I thought it was gonna be like 325. It's gonna be like 525. In reality, it probably should have been like 825. But part of me feels a little bad for this homeowner. She's been uh, long story short, this is her brother's house. Her brother had passed away. She's bleeding money on this house. And I know, like I should. It doesn't matter to me, right? It shouldn't matter to me, but I left it at 525. I charged her 525, but it took it says 5.5 hours. Maybe that's true. I mean, I pulled real numbers, but it felt like 8 hours of work on this particular job. Hot as can be that particular day. But again, repeat customer, and I'm sure she'll call me back for a few more things. Next one, some deck repairs. This is another person who found me on Google, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, so if you don't mind me asking, like, how did you find me? What did you search for?" And I didn't get a complete straight answer. He said he Googled me, and then he said I was listed as one of the top deck repairers in this particular area. And I'm like, okay, that's news to me. I'll take it, right? And he ended up being a military veteran, which I am as well. And as soon as I get over there and he saw my license plates on my truck, he said, "Are you a vet?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, I'm already going to hire you. Let's talk some numbers." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." But essentially, what he had several areas of rot he wanted taken care of on his deck. And he was very specific. I want these areas particularly cut out, replaced with new wood. I was like, "All right, just these areas or the whole board?" He's like, "No, just the areas." Um, and So you'll see some video here of me popping boards. Another day it was like 102, so you'll see that I have a fan just kind of blowing on me this whole time. I was dying on this particular job. I thought I was going to be able to do it all in one day because I had to replace all of this rotted deck. In addition to that, I had to go around and put some new skirting around. I ended up making it into 2 days. Charged 1360, gave me a $40 tip. He paid in check, so $1,400 deposited straight into the account. Materials for this one, I want to say uh, probably less than $100. $100, maybe let's say $200 just to be on the safe side. So let's say $1,200, about 12 hours, about $100 an hour. It's kind of what I'm shooting for. Then as we move down the line here, we have cabinet cut. This is somebody who lives about 10 houses down the street from me, was trying to push their refrigerator in and couldn't hit because the top refrigerator cabinet was too low. So we went over there, we talked about some particular options. He said, I just want you to cut the cabinet so that I can slide this thing in. So I told the guy, all right, yeah, it's going to be $125. He's like, $125? I said, first of all, that's my minimum. I was like, I know it's just a cut. I said, but it's a very precise cut. It's going to take some time. So I had some feelings about this job. Like, oh, like I don't want somebody just going to nickel and dime me on this thing, right? Because I got to use a $300 tool to make this cut. Anyway, I get there, I start lining everything up, I'm measuring it out, and I start doing all the cuts. Halfway through it, he's like, wow, this is involved. He's like, you're really clean and really neat. And he's like, I thought you were just going to like cut it and hack it up. He's like, but you're a true professional. So I try to be, at least I like to give off that impression. I ended up charging him $100 because he asked for a discount. He asked for a neighbor discount, cash discount, veteran discount. I'm like, all right, fine. Like it's going to take me 30 minutes to make this cut. Um, it did take me about 30 minutes to make the cut, but we ended up chit chatting, talking a few different things. I was there a little over an hour. He gave me $100 cash, gave me a $20 tip on top of that, and then I walked out the door. That same day, I had a job that was about 30 minutes from my house, so about a 1 hour round trip. This was putting in several different safety bars into tile. I've learned over time with these that so I know how to put them in, but it takes time to measure them out, to set them up. And then I know I'm going to go through these bits, and some of these bits, 30, 40, $50 for some of these bits. So you got to factor that in if you're doing this kind of work in tile, which I did. I charged, I think I originally had estimated 560 because they wanted 5 bars. I got there, it was only 4 bars, so I lowered it down to 480. She paid by credit card. After it's all said and done, it came out to about 460. And then a final job, which actually I had scheduled for this morning, but I got rained out on. So I'm making an estimate on this one. Customer had found me on Google. I'd actually stopped by there one night on my way over to a restaurant to do a quick visual. And what I'm going to do from here, I'm going to cut down a pergola, do some deck repairs. Estimated out about $1,300 for this particular job. So what you might notice here with my deck jobs is I'm getting a little bit more expensive on these jobs because I've kind of learned my lesson on the amount of time that it takes, the amount of hassle that these jobs are. This job is simpler than the last one that I did, but I got to make it worth my time. So I have estimated 10 hours here. I think I'm going to be able to do this one in about 6 hours. But that's 6 hours on site. I also got to haul away all the leftovers from this thing. What I'm doing with that right now too is I don't have a dump trailer. So if I have a lot of these jobs, right, I've had several jobs that I'm picking up debris on, then I have two options, right? I could go to the dump. I could pay somebody to go to the dump for me. I could get a waste management bag delivered and basically stage everything in front of my house, have waste management pick it up, take it away. On this particular case, I'm probably going to have the guy that does my dump runs for me just come over to my house, pick up the pile that I have sitting in my driveway. I'll put a picture up here. And then he'll take it away. He'll be like 200, $300 to haul this stuff away. And I charge the customers for this, so it's nothing out of my pocket. Anyway, I know it's a little bit long winded, but that's the 26 jobs or 25 jobs that I have this month so far. So as you see, as I scroll down here, that totals up to $10,000, $309 in total of about 90 hours, 89 hours of direct time on these particular jobs, right? And you do the quick math, right? You do $10,000 divided by 89. Man, I'm making 115 a month, right? That's great, or per hour. But let's talk reality, right? Now let's start to break these numbers down a little further. Okay. Now let's talk real numbers, right? So again, total revenue $10,309. Great. Then I have cost of goods sold. So the majority of stuff that I go buy, the supplies, I just put in cost of goods sold. So this is the lumber, the screws, whatever I need for a particular job. Um, Again, I mentioned in a perfect world, I would do this at the job level, but in reality, I might be buying 3 jobs worth of supplies at the same time. So the way that I get this cost of goods sold numbers, I just go to my Novo, my bank account. I see how much money that I spent on supplies in this particular month that I categorize as cost of goods sold. In this particular case, it was about $2,400. It's not perfect, right? Because I might have bought some stuff the month before or a month after, but in the end of the day, it's close enough. So I subtract that out. Right now, I'm down to 7,000 something. Then I have my operating expenses. So my operating expenses are things like what am I paying for my software, my CRM, Markate? What am I paying for insurance? What am I paying for any advertising? All the stuff it takes to keep my business going on a daily base, on a monthly basis, is in here, right? So this is basically my break even. How much do I have to make every month just to break even? And this particular month is about $593 that I needed to make back just to break even. Then the final number I'll have here is my mileage offset. So I'll put a little snapshot here. I track all my mileage, right? And for as I'm going back and forth for these particular jobs, I'm tracking my mileage. And I think it's like 71 cents a mile right now. So if I do all that math and if I categorize all my miles, essentially, if I fast forward, do all the math, $627 of my total revenue, essentially, I don't have to report because I'm going to expense it off as a mileage expense. So when I do all that math, I take the total revenue minus those things, add the mileage offset back in. I end up with a net profit before taxes of about $7,800, right? And if I do the quick math on 7,800 divided by the 89 direct hours, I end up around $88 per hour. Not so bad. But the final thing I have to do is I have to bring out taxes, right? So I'm estimating taxes around 30% of net profit. You might be wondering, how do I get that 30% number? It's a combination of a few things. First of all, my marginal tax bracket right now is 22%. So for every dollar that I'm making, I'm paying 22% taxes on that. In addition, I have to pay the full self-employment tax, which is about 15%. So in reality, I'm paying about 37% tax on every dollar that I bring in. But through some tax strategy and whatnot, I can probably reduce that. It's probably actually somewhere between 20% and 30%. It really depends on the end of the year where I end up. But for purposes of this video, I'll say it's 30%. So I subtract out that 30%. And now I have a net profit of about 5,500 bucks of money in my pocket. And if I do that math, it's about $62 an hour. So that number is okay. I mean, if you're making 20 bucks an hour, you're like, wow, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it's not nothing to shake a stick at. I will tell you that the job that I left recently, my full time kind of corporate government job, I was making $74 an hour, working a lot less physically demanding to do that. So I'm not making enough yet right now to completely replace my income. But as I reflect on these numbers, as I look at the jobs that are making me money, as I look at the things that I'm losing my money on, I get better, right? So as I refine these numbers over time, hopefully these numbers will start to creep up a little bit. My goal is to um, have that. Um, so I've done math, right? I don't want to work like you see 90 hours, right? I could have worked more than that. Yeah, I could have. I don't want to, right? Because what you don't see in my schedule when I didn't show is I took 2 days off because I went stand up paddleboarding down the river one day with my good buddy on like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, which is awesome. And then I'm off doing this and that. I'm driving my wife over to Houston, whatever it may be. I have this flexibility now as a handyman. So if I can keep these numbers, my per hour numbers going up, and keep my hours at a reasonable level, like it's great. It's fantastic. Anyway, those are my numbers for the month. Hopefully you got something out of this. You saw in my little break there that I don't make any money on YouTube, right? And to be honest with you, I'm considering maybe not even making any more YouTube videos because I don't know how long this video is right now, but it takes a lot of time to make these videos, to edit them and put them together. So if you're getting any value out of this, it really helps if you give me a thumbs up. Hopefully one day I will be monetized by YouTube. But for right now, I'm not. So if there's any way you want to help me out, I think some of the other channels say buy me a coffee, buy me a beer. If you want to hit that super thanks button down below and show your appreciation for the videos I put out, it really probably just encouraged me to keep making these videos, to be honest with you. Because I don't know how much more I have in the gas tank to keep making these things kind of over and over again if I don't think that people are truly getting value out of them. So I hate to be that guy that asks for money, but at this point, I'm kind of at that point where I'm deciding whether or not I'm going to continue with this. And the response that I get back from this video kind of may help me with that. So I appreciate your time, as always, watching my videos. If you have any questions or comments on anything that I went over, specific questions about any of the jobs, just go ahead and drop a comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time and stay tuned for the next video.